Hello, today we'll talk why you should upgrade your Rails application. We prepared 5 benefits, why is it worth it, and I think the last one may surprise you. Hi Tomek.
Hi Łukasz.
So, the upgrades. In our experience, this is something that people often don't like to do, and they don't do it as a natural consequence of people being hedonists. And then when we join the companies, we usually try to make this habit of upgrading the app and the gems on weekly and daily basis. We have blog posts about that. I mean, that's the one article in the blog post. But as I mentioned today, we want to tell you 5 reasons why we think you should update your Rails application. And let's start with the number 1, which is
security.
Yeah. Least sexy, but the most problematic if something goes wrong, right?
Yeah. Indeed. So by keeping up to date all our dependencies, let's say, with all the versions, we are like less vulnerable. Is it?
Hard word. Appreciate saying that. Thank you. At least I don't have
to. For sure, I will also put some kind of note.
The text with the star actually explaining what Tomek was trying to say.
Exactly.
Je m'appelle.
Great. Okay, faster. Je m'appelle.
Je m'appelle. Mais poupou.
To all the exploits, right? And I think this is also very important where we have like some kind of 0-day bugs when they are very famous and you have to do the upgrade with the security fix. And if you are like if you didn't upgrade your dependencies for a long time, you can't do it simply, right? Because you can have some kind of dependencies that you cannot quickly bump up. And that's why it's so important to be up to date with the older versions. Because if you're like, if the change would be between major versions, you are like, you will have some kind of problems, right?
Yeah, it takes time if you fell behind. And yesterday I learned, thanks to the great internal presentation that we had, that the patch versions are usually, well, they always, at least in Rails, should contain only the security upgrades, right? So if you're up to date, if there is new issue, new exploit discovered, then when there is a fix, you can just really quickly apply it without additional pain of upgrading all the dependencies. This is a very important aspect, because what if you don't do this? As Tomek mentioned, there is it's called 0-day attacks, right? Zero. Yeah, I just learned this term, so need to confirm. But if you don't do that, then it can cost you a lot. And it doesn't have to be necessarily the money, but it can also be if your company gets a lawsuit, right? It's kind of long battles that you don't want to have, and it can cost you a lot of money, as already mentioned, but it can also hurt your reputation and your trust. Those are very hard to rebuild, and then this can also cost you money, because a company that is not trustworthy will not be the number one chosen when people look for the software you're building. So that's the one aspect. What would be the another aspect?
Performance. Oh,
yes.
Right. So whenever you upgrade the Rails, you also, I mean, not whenever, but with the Rails upgrades, also you have to do the Ruby upgrades. And in both cases, the performance is better and better with the newer releases, right?
Yeah. It's often said together with that Rails is dead, that Ruby and Rails are slow, but I was actually pretty surprised that it's not any of the latest performance improvements. It seems that it's getting better and better. I mean, certainly there is a focus on that area, right? And if you are not upgrading your dependencies, your framework, your language version, then you're losing not only the security aspects, but also, let's say, free, but not so free, obviously, because you need to upgrade performance gains, right?
Yeah, and as always with like matured technologies, there are always people that will find those places where the performance is like is dropping, and they will report the bug, right? Actually, we are looking in one of the. I think we also mentioned that we sometimes. Sometime we will prepare the episode about the performance when it comes to rendering the partials, and like we were looking for some resources about it also in through the internet, and we found that there are already some bugs, right, created on the Rails repository that say about it, and it's like if technology is matured and a lot of people are using it, they will find those places where the performance is not that good, and they will create some bugs. So the authors of the frameworks and languages will take a look at it and will probably improve that. So with every newer release, the performance should also be better, right?
Yeah, and that's an important aspect of our application, right? I mean, imagine yourself as a user to wait 5 seconds for the page to render. You just would close it and go to other place, or just lose your focus, right? When we think about the corporate software. So performance is important aspect. And by the way, it's not only about the performance, but it's also the memory consumption that is also being addressed when you think about this kind of benefit that you can get from upgrading your Rails, but also your Ruby. All right, another aspect is bugs in framework, but also in gems, right? This is in addition to security issues. Gems and frameworks, they have bugs, right? That's obvious. But also they get fixed when people use the frameworks, as Tomek said. It's mature, people find it. We also live in this open source bubble, so things get reported. And but the question is if you would get those fixes, right?
Yeah, so if you are really behind, I mean, you can always some kind of, I don't know, patch the bug on yourself, right, in your application. But then maybe your solution is also not so good, right? I mean, it's always possible that the authors of the library will do it a bit better, and then you would like to be in the situation when they release the fix, you can quickly just bump up the version, right, and use the fix from authors of the library, and not use the like monkey patch your monkey patch version.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. There's also one very interesting post from ex-RKC member Piotr from 2018, where he said that, and I'll quote, there are at least two interesting and important habits I've learned in RKC. The first one is Monday security update. And Piotr mentioned that, that's end of quote, that he uses two tools that I bet most of you have in your projects, or you can get it easily. This is bundle audit and bundle outdated, which will show you, first of all, the security problems that you have in your applications, but also which kind of gems are out of date. So this is very important. And one other thing that you can do for your project is to add dependabot, which will give you, depending on the configuration, in our case, we all usually use weekly, information about the gems that should be updated that may have some security issues.
Yeah, so I think we can go to the next point, which is new features, right? So simply, if you are behind the most recent versions of some libraries or framework or language, you just miss the new features, right?
Yeah, exactly.
That should be enough for this point, right?
That should be enough for this point. But for example, one of the important features that you may miss is the insert all or in batches that Rails introduced recently. And if you don't have it, well, you're just losing, right? You're just losing. You have to do it another way. You cannot use the way that the Rails core team thought is the best one to do. All right, but when it comes to new features, I think that's the number point on our list, but it's kind of new feature. But still, we wanted to make it separately, because if you're not convinced, then I have one more argument for you, and this is the Hotwire, right? If you're not up to date with your Rails app, if you're at Rails 5, you cannot use the Hotwire. And for me, it's such a game changer that that's why it deserves its own section in this video. And if you're not familiar with the Hotwire, so just imagine a future in which your app doesn't have to build another JavaScript client just to make the user experience feel nice. Instead of that, you can just use the server-side rendering. We recorded 2 videos about that, about the Hotwire. You can see them probably somewhere here and maybe here. And this gives you this very strong framework in recent Rails that lets you just send the HTML over the wire and make the framework actually replace only the parts of the page that change. And this gives you a lot of developer speed, but also, as they call it, developer experience. Right, Tomek?
Yeah, I love it, so I have nothing to add, actually.
All right.
Yeah, so if your application is so outdated that you even didn't use SPA, you just can go with the Hotwire, so you have always server-side rendering and
yeah, but that's actually a very interesting point. If you like skipped all the updates and now you update and you haven't used React, for example, so your app is very simple. If you update to recent Rails, you can just get this nice spa look and feel. Probably in most cases, you will get it for the cost of the upgrade of your Rails. So it will not be free, but once you do it, your development and your user experience in the application will be much, much better. And your users will be, I hope they would be grateful for that.
Okay, so I think we mentioned all of the points, and just to sum it up, one thing that I would like to mention is that if you are very behind the schedule with your updates and you want to get to the most recent version of the framework or language, it might require a lot of work. So I think the best option is just to make it on the daily, weekly basis, to just take a look on the dependencies and try to update them. And I think that's it.
Yes, I hope you feel convinced. If not, then, well, sorry, not sorry. If you know other benefits of upgrading your Rails app, you can write down in comment. And we're really curious, what is your current Rails version on the app that you work in production? Happy to see that. Add a comment below, and thanks for watching. See you next week.
See you.